first of all, similar to question 1, how do we know when it's a discriminant question? Anytime the question tells you how many roots it has, they're giving you a hint that you need to use the discriminant, the b squared minus 4ac. So if we recognize that hint, that'll make this question a lot easier. So in A, determine the values of k for which this has no real roots. And they're sort of implying that there might be a lot of numbers that work. So just guessing and checking and saying, okay, I tried 100 and it worked. We're going to find out 100 is an answer for this one, but it's not the only answer. We have to find all of the answers. So how does this work? The fact that it tells us that it has no real roots, what do we know about the discriminant? If it's going to have no real roots, if we think about the whole quadratic formula here, right? Sometimes it's really nice to picture the whole quadratic formula and think about this discriminant. What has to be in that blue circle for you to say, hey, there's no solution?
A negative.
A negative. So how do we write that down? We write out our discriminant and put an inequality. You see that if it is less than 0, that's like saying it is negative mathematically. That makes our equation. Well, we know what B is. B is 7. We know what A is. A is 2. And C is K. I always think of like, if there was kids in like grade 7 or grade 4 listening in, they just walk by, and I just ask the question, and C is, and you guys answered K, they'd be like, oh my goodness, high school students have gone crazy. C is K? What's happening? So, we now have an equation. We want to solve for K. So if I want to get K by itself, how do we work with inequalities? Well, we work with them like equations, but we have to remember the one special rule. So if I move my 49 over to the other side by subtracting, nothing changes when we subtract. But when we multiply or divide by a negative, and this is going to change this to 49 over 8, we have to remember that our inequality will flip. So we get K has to be bigger than 49 over 8. There are a lot of numbers bigger than 49 over 8. We have to use 1 to write an equation. So we're going to, for part B, I'm going to do it right here. I'm going to rewrite the equation, but I have to put in a number for K. Yes?
You wrote 7K?
7, yeah, oh, I can. Thinking about the K too soon. All right, let's do some mental math. 49 over 8 is approximately what? Where do you go? It's a bit bigger than 6, right? Because 6 times 8 is 48. So it's going to be 6 point something. What number could you put in here that would possibly work? Or for sure work. It's up to you. It's a bit bigger than 6. You need to put in any number for K. Do you know any numbers a bit bigger than 6? What would be one of the numbers that you know that's a bit bigger than 6?
7.
7. Okay? So 7 would be fine. Right? They just asked for, like, but you don't have to cut it that fine. You could do 7,000 if you're like, I wanna make sure. Bit bigger than 6, okay, I wanna make, 7,000, perfectly fine, right? If you like to live on the edge, you could be like, 6.13. That's like, I don't know, what is 49 over 8 exactly? Is it 6.125? Is that right? You have to check your calculator. And if 6.13 would still be right, 6.126, you'd be like, 6.1251. Like, you can live that close to the edge if you want to, but you can also be like, I want to be sure. 7,000. If you're really nervous about the greater than, you can spend the next 15 minutes just making zeros on your quiz or test. And I'd almost have to for sure give it to you, because you'd have like some number in the quadrillions or even bigger than that. Guaranteed to be bigger. Now, for whatever reason, part B, when I give this question on a quiz or a test, throws people off. It's not that hard. You just have to do any value that works. And there's a million different answers, well, infinite amount of answers that'll work, but you have to interpret your inequality from A and do something that's consistent in part B. That'll make that work. Okay, so questions you can circle from this one. 8, 9, and 10.